Some of the God concepts held by major religions of the world and many of the minor religions and belief systems are that God is light, spirit, the word, love, consuming fire, sees all, controls all, omniscient, all-knowing, omnipresent, everywhere, omnipotent, almighty or all-powerful, creator of all things, and many other concepts or beliefs. The limits of human intelligence and its capacity to understand the vastness and intimacy of the omniverse/God may be and has been compared to a snail or germ understanding physics, biology, languages, etc., communicating with humans about their understanding. There may be dimensions and understandings that our brains are incapable of knowing because we cannot think or perceive beyond who we are at this place in evolution. Because of the snail brain concept, all our current commonly accepted facts may be complete errors and we may never know those truths. Or we will find out sometime in the future that all current scientific findings have been the discoveries and insights of human snails, like some ancient/archaic religious beliefs and curiosities into nature are relative to today's understandings. Science is directly or indirectly seeking a creator, source, and/or sustainer in the omniverse. Science is its own religion with prophets, messengers, and sages telling wonderful stories of their adventures, predictions and theories filled with power, mystery, and awe about their continuous journey into the unknown of practically infinitesimally small particles, infinitely large omniversal space, actual and potential dimensions, past, present and potential future of the world we live in. Technological advances contribute to consumers throughout the earth. Science or scientific exploration is learning about the omniverse in ways that all or many may comprehend instead of relying upon the potentially errant few with inside information spoken only to them by or through an unknown God or source, documented in unverifiable ancient/archaic writings. It is easily debatable whether science destroys, retards, and harms more life on Earth than it saves. Technologically advanced weaponry and modern warfare, vast monocroppings, honeybee genetic devolution through inbreeding and industrial scale over-harvesting or theft of naturally intended winter support storage. Besides, pesticides, fungicides, multi-side, junk food and additives, pharmaceutical misuse, addictions, and deaths, media agitations, propaganda, and social engineering. Deforestations, environmental degradation, air, water, and land pollution, frontal lobotomies, poisoning, human-made disasters, heavy equipment excavations, logging, roads, parking lots, buildings, human overpopulations and life expectancy extensions, large commercial high-tech fish finding and over-harvesting, human-induced species depletions and extinctions, etc. Human perversions of capitalism can similarly be linked to most, not all human-influenced problems around the world. The simple, pure, common-sense idea of a money token representing labor, material, service, merit, etc. that is hard to argue with. Turns out much of the toxicity written about science above when impure, greedy, power junkies become addicted to a role of accumulated capital dictators or money people, holding the tokens that most in a capitalist society work for and require to live and function. Does human nature or the pursuit of harmony with our world corrupt much of what it touches when unguided? All or most of the cheerleaders for capitalism, probably science, are those who are highly rational and financially successful. Rarely, if ever, do we find the vast network of the slaves of capitalism rejoicing in their chains. Love of God as God vs love of money as God. Even the so-called golden rule, Matthew 7:12, so in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you, for this sums up the law and the prophets, gets corrupted by humans through sadomasochistic tendencies, sterile junk food, drug, and alcohol addictions, greed, sexual degeneracy/perversities, etc. Many of the scientific discoveries of today are now considered established facts, their foundations in mystery, curiosity, and creative imaginings, visions that have led us into the unknown to make it as known as we can know at this time. Religion, spirituality, or mystery may have been the beginnings or foundations of scientific inquiry. Maybe that all or much of future scientific research includes the possibility of finding a creator, or God as part of its awareness before, during and after each experiment. It is written in religious literature that we cannot see God's entirety, nor can we ever know God completely. Given the immensity of the infinite omniverse combined with our finite senses, limited imaginations, and the relatively finite exploratory tools available to explore apparently infinite stars, planets and other matter, infinite light years away, in infinite space with apparently infinite length and breadth in all directions along with practically infinitesimally small minutiae encountered in particle physics, then this appears to be true. We cannot count to infinity, so it is highly unlikely that we are going to know or explore the infinite completely any time soon. Relatively limited human intellect may not be able to comprehend or even imagine some, many or most omniversal questions and their answers, as we can imagine the earlier referenced snail not comprehending physics, psychology, and medicine without miracles or fairy tale support. Let us look at what is commonly called the known world we live in. The Earth is said to rotate around its axis at approximately 1,000 miles per hour at the equator and revolves around the Sun with about a 93 million mile orbital radius at approximately 67,000 miles per hour. Our solar system, including the Sun and the planets that revolve around it, rotates around the galactic poles of the Milky Way, which the Earth is part of, at approximately 600,000 miles per hour while the Earth is relatively unchanged, except for a few light breezes, hurricanes and tornadoes up to the fastest recorded wind speed of 253 miles per hour 408 kilometers per hour. Light travels at a speed of 299,792,458 meters or 186,282-ish miles per second. A light year is the distance light travels in 1 year or 5,874,589,152,000 miles. A light year is a very long distance. If a child is born counting and continues to count 24 hours a day without sleep for 70 years at one number per second, they would only reach 2,207,520,000. It would take 2,661 of these hypothetical people to count the miles light travels in 1 year and 16,730 to count the March 2025 U.S. federal debt. The nearest star beyond our Sun is said to be 4.3 light-years away, which means that the light that we see from this star was emitted 4.3 years ago. This star and all the others in visible space are no longer where they appear to be. The star may not exist today even though the visible light, emitted in the past, that is reaching us today, still shines. Our Milky Way galaxy has been estimated to be approximately 100,000 light-years across or 587,458,915,2000,000,000,000 miles. Visible light from stars at this range was emitted in prehistoric times and is finally arriving for us to see. All the stars in the sky are showing images of how our galaxy and beyond appeared in varying past times in a historical light show. When the Earth and a star are moving away from each other, the time between the two will be increased. All the apparent stars of the entire night sky are an optical illusion or like a mirage. We are only seeing light, not the actual stars. It has been estimated that there are between 100 and 200 billion galaxies within our observable universe or the viewing range of larger modern telescopes, 2024 AD, that may also be 100,000 light-years across. These may be phantom lights of prehistoric galaxies that no longer exist. The trace lights from these galaxies can be billions of light-years away, 5.9-ish septillion miles per billion light-years. Although we have been told our universe is expanding, maybe shrinking, and we will not be able to confirm or deny this because of the time lapse between the ancient light we see through our eyes and relatively limited exploratory tools and what may be empty space. What is /r beyond our current viewing range we might say only God knows for now because we are merely penetrating minutely into infinity. Snail brains looking into the apparent infinite. Almost, if not all lights in the sky, including the sun's 8-minute lapse and its 1.3-second light lapse reflected by the surface of the moon, are traces of past events in relatively near or distant places that will be seen in the future in places beyond the Earth in the opposite direction from the light source. We witness the universal light images of the past in our present, and a different version of our present view will be visible in a more distant part of the omniverse in the future. We are witnessing somewhere/someone/something else's future or past light, activity, or location. If a person could travel faster than the speed of light, they could sit a distant event, return to us, describe what they saw, and appear to predict future events. The omniverse may have this ability due to omnipresence or being everywhere at the same time. The omniverse is our past, present and future visible light at the same time. While all phases of this light from source to observer are happening in the present, it appears we are witnessing the past or present. We are observing present light sent from a distant source in the past, like the ball that is now in the hands of the catcher and no longer in the hands of the pitcher. The light we see is present light that is not the source or at the source. Everything we see is either a representation of something with an indiscernible time lapse due to the nearness of our local environment, or a lapse of time so vast that no human was, is, or maybe even will be around when the image was/is emitted, viewable. Apparently light from each individual star travels outwardly in all directions away from that star as its source. There are many intersections of light paths crossing each other everywhere in the omniverse that light can travel freely. Let's add to this the limitations of visible light. It is said that humans can only see 0.0035% of the electromagnetic radiation spectrum. The other 99.9965% of non-visible radiation detectable by humans at this early stage of the 21st century ranges from long-wave, low-frequency radio waves through microwaves, infrared, visible, ultraviolet, X-ray to the shortest light waves with the highest frequency in gamma rays. There is a lot going on around us locally and universally, and much that we cannot see, yet it is there. Some can be perceived through some modern instrumentation, as in cellular telephones, GPS, radio and satellite receivers, radio, X-ray, and gamma-ray telescopes. Some of the more dangerous electromagnetic radiations could be emitted by catastrophic events in space, heading our way, that may not be observed until it is too late. If you have not already done so, take a moment and see how far your mind can travel an infinite distance in any direction. You will get another idea how limited our relative snail brains and perceptions can be, and how large infinite space is. You might imagine beyond the so-called known parts of the omniverse and into theoretical parts or dimensions of the omniverse, making things up as you go. Beyond that you are on your own, theorizing without proofs or evidence, creating a fantasy universe. Though it may be amusing to try, some do, we have not been able to grasp or confine infinity in time, space, numbers, or even the divisions between two numbers, other than using names or labels. It may be harder to imagine space being finite than infinite. If we think we can describe, imagine, or know infinity, then it is finite, not infinite. Our solar system could be a universal atom with planets moving around the sun as protons, neutrons, and electrons are said to move around nuclei in atoms. This solar atom may be part of a toy being played with by universal giants or gods that are either conscious or unconscious of their presence in the particle structure of this toy, like some of the creatures that inhabit our skin and intestines. These theoretical universal giants or gods may be orchestrating all life on Earth as we orchestrate the movements of the Mars rovers and other spacecraft. If there were living beings in space observing these rovers and spacecraft, they may not know who made them or who was directing their movements. Does this sound familiar? Every galaxy that we can observe with modern telescopes may also be theoretically viewed as this particle model in relation to the vastness of infinite space. As absurd or improbable as these possibilities may sound, they are possible. Infinite space is that big and that far beyond our comprehension. We may be viewing things in space that are relatively large in relation to ourselves and our Earth. We are merely glimpsing past images of tiny pieces of infinite space. If we go into the dimension of fundamental particles, we find that a drop of water is said to have over 5,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000 atoms of oxygen and hydrogen doing their little dance together while their electrons are said to orbit the nuclei of each of these partners many billions of times per second, and hyperons, mesons, tau, muons, neutrons, gravitons, maybe bosons, God particles, neutrinos, protons, photons, quarks, gluons, and other particles, known and unknown, do what they do best to maintain water as water according to theoretical nuclear physics. The few times that we have filmed or witnessed the actions and features of these small particles in specific laboratory settings, even repeatedly, has left us assuming the rest of the particles in this drop of water and in the omniverse are the same or act the same under many different sets of circumstances. Some scientists are aware that there is more space between these particle parts than known substance in even the densest matter. This majority of space in matter is as unknown now as current knowledge of particle physics was many years ago. All this space within the smallest particles is like the space between planets and stars in our known universe, such as dark matter and dark energy. We may live and perceive in one dimension among uncountable dimensions of space, time, being. We can emphasize the word theoretical as meaning much of this dimension is not really known but theorized about through human brain observations, educated guesses, and mechanical reason, in a similar way that many religious beliefs are held by believers through personal experience and intuitive reason, with the only support coming through similar shared experiences by others. Infinite space and the smallest particles are not completely known by humans. We have no scientific certainty as to where our consciousness came from, why it exists, or what happens to it after death. We can explain much of the chemical composition of our bodies, but we cannot explain our will to survive or what is within us that is willing us to survive, or our consciousness, life force, spirit, or that which differentiates what is commonly known as a living body from what is commonly known as a dead body without its life force, conscious awareness, or soul. There are uncountable creatures on Earth that all have an innate will to survive, adapt, and propagate with no known reason or sources for these drives, and who knows what other species may live in the beyond. There is something within or beyond the organism itself that wants to take so-called ordinary matter and keep it composed as a so-called living thing through consumption, mutation, adaptation, survival, and procreation for the lifetime of that living thing and the perpetuation of its kind. Why would so-called lifeless matter spring to life in form and then persist in defending and replicating its form until going back to formlessness or changing form? There must be something producing and sustaining this will to live and defend and procreate similar forms. Since we do not know, we cannot rule out a creator and/or designer or God. as much as it offends those rigid rationalists seeking to eliminate these ideas with their relative snail brains. There are memories and personal experiences that most of us are certain that we have had that cannot be proven or supported. Many of our personal experiences can only be spoken about and either believed or not believed by those we describe them to. Does this make an unprovable personal memory or experience not true? There are falsely accused and sentenced humans in prisons with clear memories of events that they could not reveal to prove their innocence. There are actual criminals that have committed crimes. No one has yet been able to access their memories to convict. Does this mean our memories and unsupported experiences have not happened? Experience comes during life. Experience is personal. A version of personal experience can be passed on in the form of knowledge. Knowledge is not experience until it is lived, and then a similar, although not the same experience may be passed on. One person's experience of cold may be like another's, but it is not the same. An individual's experience cannot be proven but can be supported through the similar experiences of others if there are others. Unique personal experiences may never be proven, replicated, understood, or shared with others. A time may come when definitions of life that are now commonly held or believed will be seen differently, much differently, or completely opposed. We may think of wisdom as a relatively thorough combination of experience and knowledge around a subject. Apparently, animals can have experience without knowledge, and reading this writing can give you knowledge without experience. Individuals that have a belief or an opinion for or against God will have their own understanding of God or no God. Even among others who claim to have the same religion, belief, or lack of belief, because of the limits of individual comprehension, unknowable vastness of infinite space, differing interpretations, translations, and sources of belief, and the wide variety of differing experiences each individual has within their human lifetime. If 1,000 people, from 1,000 different locations on this earth, drew pictures of the earth and sky that was visible to them at a given time, on the same type of paper with the same drawing instruments, you would have 1,000 different drawings of the earth and sky. Atheists and others can say that many of the gods and proposed ideas and stories of God are doubtful or not true, but to say with absolute assurance there is no God is narrow-minded or ignorant to say the least, or arrogantly, I'm the center of the universe, childish, narcissistic snail-brained delusion. One may suspend judgment to show some depth of thought. To say that there are no other intelligent life forms within the infinite possibilities of infinite space sounds overly skeptical even to the simplest human. The definitive statement there is no God is of similar limited thinking as there are no other intelligent life forms in infinite space. Because something is not provable or completely understood through modern technology and human sensory observations does not mean that it does not exist as in human will, consciousness, past events, memories, and personal experience. Humans like to know or think that they know what is going on around us. We are not conscious of much in relation to infinite knowledge and space. If the world around you is not mysterious, it is because of limited imagination or closed-mindedness or delusional narcissistic know-it-allness that limits you to not knowing enough about your world, rather than because you know too much. More we discover, more mysterious life becomes. With so much mystery, it is only lack of knowledge that claims God does not exist. Of course, declaration that God does exist, that has its basis in being told that it is, through unverifiable ancient/archaic texts for so-called infallible humans without knowledge or experience. Similar narrow-minded awareness. The God does not exist statement is like flat earth claims that rely on limited snail-brained human observations and may appear edgy and clever among other snail brains that can't think their way out of their comfortable little echo chambers. This writing will not be claiming the certainty of the existence of a religious God. It will be claiming who or what fulfills the closest description of the monotheistic claims of omniscience, omnipotence, omnipresence, source and sustenance of all things in the omniverse. First statement, monotheism and science are speaking about the same creator or sources that the omnipresent, atomically charged, omniversal energy or spirit of God, whichever term you prefer, is the source, sustainer, power, creative force within all energy, knowledge, creativity, memory, consciousness and matter that was, is, and will be through whatever religious, scientific, chemical and / or evolutionary means that it came to be. This may disrupt some settled ideas of who or what God is or is not. This does nothing to change current understanding. Science and monotheism are talking about the same source of all in all. Call it what you will by scientific, religious, or spiritual terminology, God, Allah, creation, the cosmos, Father, Mother Nature, Holy Spirit, the Trinity, all that is, everything, the Great Spirit, energy, etc. But the omniverse is the producer, source, and sustainer of all it contains. Anything that exists is a product or creation of the omniverse. The omniverse is everything known and yet to be known, therefore anything that exists must have come from and be part of everything that is, was, will be. If you discover something that you think came from somewhere else, did not. That somewhere else is also part of the infinite omniverse. The atomically charged energy or spirit of the omniverse exists in or is all things, visibly animate and inanimate to our senses and technology. You do not have to call the omniverse God to know that everything that exists within the omniverse is from the omniverse, including black holes, antimatter, dark energy, and any other mysterious phenomena from our apparent dimension and any other dimension that was, is or will be. It can be proven scientifically that we are products or creations of this omniverse. Same source that produced life and consciousness in all the so-called living is continuously maintaining life and consciousness in the present. Theory of evolution has said that all things commonly known as living things may have come to life through a series of events, possibly starting with a chemical combination and / or reaction and / or particle motion under the correct environmental conditions or primordial soup / broth / ooze / goo. These elements and conditions may still exist, and the process may be generating new life forms while we are reading this. Evolutionary theory says that life, or what we commonly call life, has been produced from so-called non-living matter found in nature or the omniverse. So-called non-living matter and the cumulative processes of so-called non-living matter that generate life in this manner would be the scientific creator, source, or parents of all commonly known living things. Since all so-called living and non-living matter, and antimatter, part of the infinite omniverse, this makes the omniverse the creator or producer, source, and sustainer of all living things or God of evolution. The elemental composition of every so-called living thing can be broken down into so-called non-living material from the time when no commonly known living thing existed on Earth. Every sperm, embryo, or seed is composed of the same technically non-living matter that existed here before life on Earth. What we commonly call non-living matter can and has become living. Living things are another form of particle motion or another way in which particle motion expresses itself. There are sounds outside of our hearing range and light outside of our vision spectrum, and different matter / energy vibrational frequencies are said to represent different materials. It appears the life force, spirit, soul, or consciousness of living things has its own vibrational energy frequencies like satellite and radio transmissions of images, music and voices. By redefining all matter / energy / spirit in the omniverse as living energy or spirit existing within varying vibrational frequencies, we can generate more reverence for all things in our world and more physiological, psychological, emotional, and / or spiritual integrity in and around humanity and nature. The atheist is a product of or from random mutations, chemical reactions, natural selection, elements from the omniverse or nature, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur, etc., or air, water, sunshine, minerals, proteins, etc., survival of the fittest, environmental conditions, genetics, and any evolutionary process that exists. The atheist is a child, product, or creation of the omniverse. The omniverse, with all its processes, is the creator, source, and sustainer of all the atheist's past, present, and future bodily functions, movements, and creativity along with every other living and so-called non-living thing. The omniverse is the atheist's and the believer's source, sustainer, and producer or God. The omniverse as God absorbs the Big Bang Theory, creationism, religion, evolution, and any other theory proposed by religions, science or skepticism and will absorb and welcome any new discoveries of this creator energy or spirit as further confirmation. The omniverse as God shows that suffering is a human preservation signal and that it does not exist on spiritual/energy levels. It eliminates anthropomorphic descriptions of God's insensitivity and terribleness towards humans and all of nature. It contributes to an answer for the proverbial question, if there is a God, then why is there so much suffering in the world, and other questions like it. Henry Louis Mencken, 1880 to 1956. The anthropomorphic theory of the world is made absurd by modern biology. All the errors and incompetencies of the Creator reach their climax in man. It's a piece of mechanism. He is the worst of them all. If we assume that man actually resembles God, then we are forced into the impossible theory that God is a coward, an idiot, and a blunderer. The omniverse as God encompasses and absorbs the terms good and evil, hot and cold, pleasure and pain, life and death, and any other extremes and in-betweens. The energy of science or the spirit of God in monotheistic religion is said to not be destroyed by extremes. Beings that are commonly called living, on the other hand, need to find a balance within the extremes of their environments to remain living in the bodies they are in or are, preferably in the all-encompassing and naturally satisfying euphoria of harmonious loving union with the omniverse/God as the ultimate balance. The omniverse as God explains, omniscience, or at least knowing or having known everything that has been, is, or will be known by anyone or anything that knows, will know or knew something, omnipotence, or all the power that has been, is, or will be in all of the infinite dimensions of space and time among infinite atomic energy or power, and omnipresence which gives a direction for the love of one who is asked to love God with all their heart, mind, soul, and strength. Without omnipresence, we do not know where to love. Our love will be a groping in the dark or a confusing, fearful, delusional, idolatrous, imaginary, erotic, and or unsatisfying attempt at love, leading to unfulfilling substitutes for authentic harmonious loving union with all. With omnipresence we are always surrounded by the one we are to love, as in a return to the womb of energy, life, or spirit, with our atomically charged omniversal energy or God-connected love being spiritual umbilical cord. The omniversal God is the most inclusive for most religions and non-religious for a more unifying understanding. A transcendent God is a fragment or part of the totality and oneness of the omniversal God and therefore not omni-anything. The omniversal God is all-present, all-power, knows all, sustains all and produces all, which is obviously more than any version of a transcendent God. The omniversal God is greater than and engulfs the transcendent God and all other gods. Transcendency supports occult practices, deceiver/deception, and fosters delusions and other mental and spiritual illnesses. When we perceive all things, everywhere, as always being atomically charged energy/spirit with dramatic power, CE equals MC2, nuclear power, and nuclear explosions for drama and potential, we can no longer think or feel that we are living in a boring, lifeless world. Harmonious loving union with this atomically charged energy slash spirit begins to shine through the fog of errant beliefs as a path to world peace. This omniversal producer, source, and sustainer or God is the largest and greatest God possible. Our awareness of the omniversal God will continue to expand with every new discovery we make. It is everything known, yet to be known, and all that may remain unknown in the infinity of all things, including all human concepts of God and science that have been proposed or will be proposed. Your God can be smaller, transcendent, or limited, but you cannot have a larger God than the omniverse. If you think you do, then you have not been paying attention. Your disbelieving or understanding of God is a part of the whole omniversal God. The omniverse or God is one, and we are one with God or the omniverse. Any new discoveries will become part of the complete and unifying term omniverse/God. There is much more to learn about the omniversal God. We will be merely glimpsing future understandings within this writing. Future knowledge of the omniversal source may be potentially mind-boggling in relation to today's understanding. The biblical term associated with God is I am. This I am can be viewed as a statement referring to the universal atomically charged energy or spirit that we are and are part of in the present or the now, where life reaches its peak. God as I am is everything that is, the Alpha and the Omega and all in between. All the dynamic atomically charged energy or spirit that is present around, right now, is the present tense presence of an omnipresent atomically charged living God. Harmonious loving union with this omniverse/God is the direct or indirect goal of most, if not all, human activities, including but not limited to psychiatry, psychology, pharmacology, surgery, science, natural selection, survival of the fittest, most harmonious, freedom, liberty, pursuit of happiness, religion, nationalism, meditation, purpose, social acceptance, fads, fame, fortune, materialism, eating, breathing, sleeping, machines, computers, and phones, road, bridge, and dwelling, constructions, pain avoidance, procreative and pleasure-seeking sex, heating and air conditioning systems, cooling shade and warming sun, farming and hunting and gathering, bands, unions, attendance at stadiums, etc. Even crimes, sins, or violations such as murder, hatred, lying, cheating, stealing, adultery, racism, alcoholism, addictions, torture, laziness, gluttony, etc. can be shown to be perversions, extremes, frustrations, or simplistic solutions for this instinct for harmonious loving union with the omniverse/God. A similar structure of reward and punishment exists in both nature and religion. In religion, we are told that alignment, submission, or harmony with God's laws will bring harmony to the individual in the here and the hereafter, while violations bring torment. In nature, as most of us are aware, if we find the right temperature, right food, shelter, clothing, behavior, etc., we will be in harmony with our environment, while if we don't eat right, sleep right, think right, live right, move right, act right, etc., we will pay some penalty, usually immediately yet often over time, as in bad habits that catch up to us eventually. It can be shown that the yearning for or towards harmonious loving union with the omniverse/God drives all human pursuits, whether you are an atheist, agnostic, believer, or you do not have or are incapable of having an opinion. We are all consciously or unconsciously seeking the same loving union or reunion. We are using different words, ideas, practices, and paths to achieve or distort this common goal. Many humans already are or live like gods, children of God or parts of God's creativity, and most have the capacity. We already exhibit much of the characteristics that historically have been given to God in agriculture, animal breeding, science, philosophy, morality, engineering, architecture, art, music, etc. Everything that we do is an act of the omniverse/God because everything we are is living and integrated with the source and sustenance. We are one with all whether we believe it or comprehend it or not. Humans can selectively breed or genetically engineer numerous varieties of dogs, cherries, wheat, etc. with our conscious efforts. Then why would we put limits on the omniverse/God as the source of human consciousness and our ability to selectively breed or genetically engineer by assuming that all variations of plants and animals have come from random selection without the omniverse/God making similar selective and guiding decisions? We represent or are representatives of the omniverse/God. Everything we do is the omniverse/God living through us. If humans can intercept or manipulate the apparent random selection in nature, through conscious selection, by choosing which offspring from the descendants of the wolf would be better suited for herding livestock and defending against the wolf, hunting, police and guard duty, guiding the blind, rescuing people in the snow, following scents, pulling sleds, catching rats, learning tricks, living with small children, companionship, sitting on a lap, etc., then it can also be said that the omniverse/God is selectively breeding and choosing traits, through us, as extensions of omniversal reach. Anything we select is the omniverse/God selecting. We are agents of omniversal intelligent design. We are in God and God is in us. Anything we design with our intellect is omniversal intelligent design. Humans have aligned themselves, consciously or unconsciously, with the omniverse or God in conscious selections instead of the apparent random selections theorized by evolutionists. Humans can have compassion for animals, the environment, and each other while being products of the omniverse/God. Then there is compassion in the omniverse/God. If humans have creative intelligence, then there is creative intelligence in the omniverse/God. If humans can communicate with each other face to face or over great distances, then it can be said that the omniverse/God can communicate with the omniverse/God as humans or through humans over great distances. If humans can control the movements of animals and other humans through conditioning, propaganda, belief systems, laws, suggestions, marketing, and public opinion, or communicate with local machinery and distant spacecraft through electronics and engineering, then we are evidence that one part of the omniverse/God can exhibit conscious control over another part of the omniverse/God. If we can remember things from our memories and are part of the omniverse/God, then the omniverse/God is remembering things and creating historical records through us on a small scale, which opens the possibility that it can be done on an omniversal scale, as in the internet's accumulation of memories, experience, and information on a global scale. Human consciousness, compassion, creativity, communication capabilities, athletics, selective breeding, the ability to educate each other, memory, engineering, mathematics, physics, music, art, technology, and love are all products of the omniverse/God. Therefore, we can say that the omniverse/God has compassion, consciousness, creativity, love, communication capabilities, education, selective breeding, engineering, knowledge, memory, mathematics, physics, musical talent, artistic ability, technological creativity, along with all the other processes that we have discovered, will discover, and practice. We look out into the omniverse for evidence of God when it is right here all around us in the omniverse. The omniverse/God produces, wills, and sustains all humans and their abilities. Therefore, we are exhibiting evidence of the omniverse/God's abilities. Practically all our bodily processes, from our toenails to our fingernails to our brain functions and the hair on our heads, are being maintained by the omniverse/God without our needing to control. All our instincts, body parts, bodily functions, consciousness, neurological circuitry have been and are created, given, maintained, driven, willed, and activated by the omniverse or God. Therefore, the omniverse actively and intimately cares about our living and staying alive. The omniverse or God has, throughout our lives into the present, willed us to survive, create, live, thrive, and procreate. All these actions, functions, and drives can remind us that the omniverse or God is intimately connected to us and ultimately in charge of our lives and cares about our well-being. The omniverse or the Spirit of God within us and as us, lets us know, if we are paying attention, when we need to avoid danger, seek peace, eat, sleep, drink, warm or cool ourselves, etc. We are basically not in charge of the drives or instincts that drive us. We can agree to find harmony with these innate drives by fulfilling their requests, demands, hopefully in a healthy manner. Healthy agreement finds harmony, while unhealthy agreement and disagreement finds hell on earth. It is interesting that a relatively snail-brained human can assert that there is no God while 99% or more of their lives is being controlled, driven, created, or produced by the omniverse or God. Like a hand puppet claiming there is no hand. We could end this discussion here because this is all the evidence that is needed to show that science and monotheism are speaking about the same source and sustainer. Let us see how this omniversal atomic energy concept of God ties in with commonly held religious beliefs, scientific evidence, and theories, and how this knowledge and awareness may benefit us individually and as caretakers of this planet. Below are some connections with or between what people who claim to be a God have been saying and scientific or rational discoveries. Each of these God is statements from religion and the connecting scientific evidence contribute to the idea that the monotheistic concept of God is the omniverse or the omniverse is the ultimate monotheistic God. Religions, philosophies, and their many sects or denominations that believe, partially or wholly, that God is the creator of all things, knower of all things, in all things, and all power, include some, many, or most versions of Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and Muhammadism, Sufism, Sikhism, Mahayana Buddhism, Shintoism, Hinduism, Zoroastrianism, Taoism, Baha'is, Pantheism, many tribal and native spiritualists, some naturalists, and some scientists. Some of these groups have different variations, distortions, and limits of or within this God is all-in-all concept, such as transcendency, anthropomorphism, idolatry, etc. We will look beyond these issues in the pursuit of truth and if necessary step outside any or all the belief systems listed above into a new understanding of an ancient/archaic text worldview. There are no ancient/archaic texts, Bibles, Qurans, Gita's, etc., in which the original intent of every minutely detailed word from the original messenger is supportable with absolute certainty today, whether they were charlatans or authentically communicating with the omniverse. Much of the ancient/archaic source material is questionable in a full practical sense other than information usable in the 21st century. Ancient/archaic religious texts are spiritual skeletal remains or fossils of a possibly living past. Most religions based upon unverifiable ancient/archaic texts are questionable beyond their modern usefulness. Again, we are gleaning out the spiritual essence or DNA of Jesus' persistent call for God's message of return in this writing. Primarily, we want to eliminate all the dangerous human certainty and convictions from all unverifiable ancient/archaic texts that promote evil, murder, abuse, neglect, war, conflict, toxic emotions, etc. Biblical quotes for these writings come from either the NAB or the NIV or both, which are said to be the most popular Christian Bibles. The Quran's Allah concepts and Krishnas are listed elsewhere. These verses are spelled out at times for those readers who do not have, never will have or are unfamiliar with these ancient/archaic texts. For those that are offended by them, it will be a chance to work on some of your issues, or you can simply skip over them and leave them for those that can use them in discourse.
All right, there's another chapter from The Will to Flower. It's a book, but it's an audio-visual reading, some version of an audio book. You get to have the book written out here. You have a little follow along with the computer-generated voice. Anyway, all right. So that's one more chapter. We got, as you can see, the next chapter is going to be using some biblical statement. God is spirit, and we're going to find some scientific support for that statement in the next video. All right, later.